Welcome everyone to this morning's webinar on how to make your boat a business. I encourage all of you to use the chat feature and send us questions. Don't try to hold them to the end because it could no longer be relevant and people won't know what you're talking about. And as usual, the first thing we do is I'm going to play a little video relative to my business and vessels, so bear with us. I haven't made any videos for my marine clients in a long time, and I've decided that I want to take it on a little bit. There are some myths that exist relative to California sales and use tax that have to do specifically with vessels. And a lot of this is bad information, okay? There's a whole bunch of people that say that all I got to do is register it in an LLC, and as long as I sell it to someone, the buyer is going to be not subject to tax. I don't believe that's true. If you have a business that's an LLC, okay, and the vessel is in that business and you're filing income tax returns for all of that, so it's just a part of a business, you're probably correct. But it is my position that if, in fact, the only thing in that LLC is the title of the vessel, I believe you're using the form of an LLC to fraudulently transfer the title. If you're the guy who did this so you can sell it, you're committing fraud, okay? If you're the guy that bought it and it's a fraudulent transaction, I think you've got a problem too. So don't fall for this, just put it in an LLC story, because it's really dangerous. And ask yourself, when the first time you heard about it, what was your gut reaction to that? Well, let's see. How come every vessel, every airplane, and every car in the state of California isn't owned in an LLC if, in fact, we can buy and sell and nobody ever has to pay any sales tax? Find out how Jerry Brown would feel about that. Okay, find out how he's going to raise your gas tax. Why? Because they're all owned in LLCs. I mean, it's very, very, very self-perpetuating. If your gut tells you the first time you hear about how to do something, that there's something wrong with it, call me and check. I'll set you straight. I'll send you the documentation to support my opinions. But I don't think that that's a proper way to do transactions. And let's say that the state of California agrees with your position today, that you can you can buy an LLC and you don't owe any tax. You have no guarantee they're not going to change their mind. And because you never filed a tax return, you got a problem because there's no statute of limitations. So they can change their mind in 10 years, 15 years later and come back on you. So, and just because everyone else is doing it, trust me, that's not going to be a defense. So do smart. There's legal ways to avoid tax on all vessels in California. You just have to make a decision whether you want to spend the money to do it the right way or just give the money to the state of California. I can help you legally avoid the tax on any vessel. You just have to make an economic analysis. This is Tom Alston. Call me, 916-691-9192. Find out why people say, call Tom. Let's get started. This is Andy. It's your show. Take it away. Don't forget to send us questions.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad you're getting an opportunity to listen to me talk about this stuff. I always like to talk, and I love people to listen. So I want to kind of go over how to make a boat a business. A lot of people come to me and they're thinking about buying a boat. They want to find ways to use it as a business, and we're going to go through some of the ways we can do that. So I'm going to highlight some areas this morning. First of all, why do I want to charter my boat? What boat should I buy to put into charter service? Do I still get to my boat if I put it into charter service? Can I charter the boat myself? Do I need a charter agent? How do I pick a charter company if I'm going to use somebody to manage the boat? And should I promote the boat myself and have it in a charter service? We're going to go over some of the important things like insurance, slips, and kind of reports that need to be done. And then lastly, I'll go over some of the big scary parts, like, how do I keep my boat in good shape, and how do I make sure my boat doesn't get destroyed. A lot of people have horror stories they've heard about charter boats, so we're going to go over some of those and how to avoid getting involved with those. So I am Andy Kurtz. I'm the president and owner of Seaforth Boat Rental. I've been in this business for over 30 years. We manage a fleet of about 200 boats. Most of them, the smaller boats we own. The bigger boats are privately owned boats that we manage. So we have a hybrid operation. Let's see where we are. So, first question, which a lot of people will ask, is why do I want to charter my boat? So there's a lot of different reasons. Obviously, the two big reasons, the primary things that people think of, are tax incentives and income. But there's also other important parts, and that is just help in the overall management of the vessel. It's the various cost savings that you can get by having your boat in a charter service. And then you can offset a lot of your expenses, your ordinary expenses that you would have. So we're going to talk about how we can accomplish some of those things. So first of all, we're going to talk about income. So obviously, the way this works is that rather than being sitting at the dock when you're not using the boat, your boat is going to get chartered. Somebody is going to pay you or pay the charter company to use your boat, and you're going to get a certain percentage of that. What percentages we can talk about later, but you get income from using your vessel. Now, the tax incentives are also huge. I have some people that say, I don't care about what I get in terms of revenue, I just want tax incentives. And there clearly are. So we start out by saying making your boat as a business. So we're not in the business of creating a tax dodge. We're not in a position, we're not looking to, not pay taxes that are due. We're looking to set you up in a business that has tax incentives, and a lot of businesses do. For that, I am not a tax guy. I am not a lawyer, and that's why I will always say, I'll tell you what I know, but I'll give you some of the guidelines. But it's super important that you go to a tax professional, a lawyer, get it set up correctly, and make sure you follow the rules. Because while these are great incentives, they can also be a great liability if you don't do it right. So super important. Know what you're getting into, but make sure that we set it up correctly right from the start. Actually, I'll go back. Sorry, one thing on that. So just a highlight, though, of what are the couple of things that you can get. So in most cases, the goal in this charter business is Section 179 or deductibility of the vessel. So right now there are advantages in terms of depreciation of being able to write off the cost of your equipment, which is a huge thing. That's a great incentive. Again, it has to be set up correctly, and there's different circumstances, but that's typically a real nice incentive. The others are there's ways that you can avoid or reduce sales tax, property tax, and then a lot of the expenses that you otherwise would have to pay out of pocket now can be a legitimate business expense. So these are the kind of things that you want to set up in advance before you start the business. Make sure you understand how that's done, and before you go to a tax professional to make that happen. So offsetting expenses. We're right here. So offsetting expenses. So again, I tell people that this is a great way to offset your expenses. It's not necessarily it's going to pay for your boat. It's going to pay all your expenses, but you have ongoing expenses with your vessel. You're going to have to clean it. You're going to have to maintain it. You're going to have to put it in the slip. You're going to have to do all those ongoing expenses. When you have the boat in a charter service, then absolutely the revenue coming in is going to take away or reduce a lot of those expenses. In addition to that, you should have cost savings. So your boat will be involved in a fleet. So the way it works with us is you're going to get fleet rate on all these things. So every 2 years you haul your boat out at the boatyard, got to paint the bottom. When we take it to the boatyard, obviously we do a lot of business with that yard. We pay a lot less than retail rates. We pass those savings on to you. When we hire divers, we have a fleet rate for divers. When we have topside cleaning, all those little ancillary things that you have to spend money on an ongoing basis should be reduced by being a member of a fleet rather than just one of a private individual. that can add up to a lot of savings. In addition, we have wholesale accounts at chandleries and vendors that we pass along some of those savings to you as well. So I think that's a great incentive. And then the third component of that is help in managing the boat. So we feel we deal with a lot of people that are first-time boat buyers. They've never owned a boat before, or people that are stepping up and they're buying a bigger boat that they have not had, bigger boat than they have had. So it's a kind of a scary thing sometimes. There's a lot. It's a whole new language that you have to learn, and then there's a lot of responsibilities. All of a sudden, there's monthly things that need to be done. There's things that need to be done on a weekly basis. There's things. It's an ongoing process. You have now, in addition to started a hobby or a new activity, you've also taken on this responsibility. Well, a good charter company will hold your hand through the processes, help you learn, help you avoid the mistakes, and then help in the management. We offer services from minimal service, where we just deal with the charters, all the way up to full concierge service. So I have customers, boat owners that live out of state. They come to town once a month, once every couple months, and when they come in, they want the boat stocked with food. They want a skipper to take them out. They want somebody to clean the boat afterwards. So all those things are available to the boat owner, just like they are to our customers. So it really makes this should make boat ownership even more fun. So while there's the business side of it, there's also a great advantage of having all those luxuries of having a full crew and a full staff without really having to pay for that. So it's kind of a nice deal. So how do I choose the right boat? It's my next topic. And my first thing is you want to kind of start out with what kind of boat do I want to own. So I always say the most important part of it is you're buying a boat because you want a boat, right? You're buying a boat not because you're looking to start a business. You're buying a boat because you want to have a boat. So let's start with that. You want a sailboat? You want a powerboat? Like figure out, sort of narrow it down, and then look in your price range. So I have a good buddy that's a yacht broker, and we were talking. I was actually sitting in his office one day with a friend of mine that was looking to buy a boat, and he was saying, what kind of boat do you want? We narrowed it down. We got to the size range. We got to the style. We got to the age. We narrowed it down pretty good. And then he got to the next step, was like, how much do you want to spend? What is your budget on this? And the buyer was way low. Like his expectations, what he wanted was a Cadillac. What his budget was a Chevrolet. So the advice that the broker gave him, surprisingly, was don't buy a boat. Like if you can't afford the boat that you want, don't buy the boat. And this is the same thing. So get your boat, get the right boat. If you can't get the right boat and put it in the charter, it doesn't make sense to buy this boat. So one of the things that we do is we allow you to increase that budget, because we're going to offset your expenses. We're going to give you some of that income. So when you're determining that price range, we can factor in some of that revenue to help make that price, maybe make that your budget, your price range a little bit higher. You want to familiarize yourself. Another factor in buying a boat is familiarize yourself with where you want to keep it, where you are geographically, and what you can do with that. So, I want to become a competition water skier, but I live in San Diego, and I want to keep it in San Diego Bay. Well, you're limited in the geographic area because the conditions for being a competition water skier are not necessarily here. That's actually a bad example, but you kind of get the idea. So it makes sure that what you want to do with your boat can be accomplished with that boat and where you are. So if you want to go on long cruises to the Pacific Northwest and you live in Southern California, make sure you're buying a boat that is suitable for that. So look at all the different factors that go into using that boat. Make sure that boat can accomplish all that. The next step is to find a good broker or to find a good dealer, a reputable dealer. That person is going to be your partner through this process, and you want to make sure that the guy that is walking you through this, that's holding your hand through that process, also has your interest at heart. So clearly, they're primary interest is going to be in the deal. They get paid when you buy that boat. They get paid when the seller sells that boat. So first and foremost, it's always important to kind of keep that in mind. They're involved in the deal. They're not really your friend. They're not really your representative to, at the end of the day. They should be your representative, but they're also involved in the deal. So make sure you interview the guy, make sure you are familiar with that person, that you feel comfortable with them, you check their reputation, make sure that you're using the right person, because they are very, very important in the deal. We also, a lot of times, we get referred by brokers. So we get involved in the deal very early on, and we're more than happy to lend our expertise in that process. And a good charter company will too. They're going to say, they're going to give you the tricks and traps there to make sure you can get a good deal and that you can you don't get taken advantage of. The last step in that choosing the right boat is, ironically, from my perspective, the last step is to check with the charter company. So I found the boat that I want. I found what it can do. It's in my price range. Then you go, and before you obviously close the deal and circle that around, then you're going to check and see how charterable it is. It is a circular process. But I think it's really the final step rather than the first step. People come to me, what should I buy? I say, find out what you want, and then I'll tell you whether or not we can make that work. But by me telling you, you need a red boat that has 6 cabins and that can go 100 miles an hour, that doesn't work if that's not what you want. So follow that step. It's a circle, definitely, but follow that step. Find out what you want, get the price range, get a good guy to help you, or girl, get a good broker to help you, and then circle back and make sure that boat is charterable and can do what you want. Can I charter the boat myself? So absolutely, you can charter the boat yourself. My recommendation is that you use a qualified charter company. I think that the advantages are really good, just like I recommend using a good tax attorney, using a good CPA. I say use a good charter company. And the reason is it's a lot more complicated than you think. So a lot of people rent out they rent out houses, they rent out vacation homes and stuff, and some people do it themselves. This is a lot more complicated than that. First of all, there's a lot of municipal and state, local, municipal laws that you have to comply with. Most of the time, where you keep the boat, you're going to have a slip rent agreement, and that slip rent agreement probably will
come through for you.
Are we good? We still working?
Andy, can you hear me? Yeah, I have some questions for you.
Okay. Go ahead.
You're fine.
Hey, Tom, I think you are frozen. I'm good.
2 questions came through.
I'm not getting you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Couple
What
questions.
are the most popular types of boats to charter?
You're still a little broken up there. The first question was what are the most popular types of boat to charter? What's the second one here? Okay, well, you're frozen up, but I'll answer the first question. First question is, what are the most popular boats to charter? Again, it kind of depends on where you are. I can speak really to the Southern California market, and we do both power boats and sailboats. I feel that the starting size range that really makes a lot of sense is 36 feet and above for both power and sail. We find that a newer boat, something 5 years old or newer, really makes the most sense. But the variability is huge. Right now, I would say catamarans in the sailboat side are the big That's really the hot product on the market. And then bigger sailboats. We found recently that the bigger the better. We're adding a 70-foot boat that was previously a 56 as the bigger. So I think the bigger the better. But again, it goes back to kind of what you're looking for. And then also the smaller boats, like if you're in a 35, 40-foot boat, the revenue is higher, but the wear and tear is higher. So it's a tough question. Most popular depends on a lot of different factors. So I sort of circled around that and didn't give a real straight answer, but it's a tough question to answer. It's a little bit specific to where, when, and how. And what was the other question? He's gone. Okay. All right. Well, I'll continue. We can get back to the questions. So a reason why you don't want to charter your boat yourself, or why I feel that it's a better idea to have a charter company manage your boat. So there's a lot of, first of all, the marinas typically will not let you do it yourself. You have to have a commercial lease with the marina. You have to pay the municipality, you have to pay the marina percentage. So somebody needs to be that middleman that already has that relationship established. The second reason is compliance with laws. So you'd be surprised. So a lot of the governing laws pertaining to rental and charter of a vessel are the Jones Act, which dates back to the 1800s. It's a very old, complex law protecting U.S. shipping and shipbuilding. And that's what type of boat, how the boat has to be registered, how the boat has to be crewed, how the boat has to be how the transaction has to transpire, whether or not there's a survey before and after. So a lot of things that you don't necessarily want to become an expert in, your charter company should be have the expertise in that. That can save you a lot of headaches. You put your vessel in danger of being seized, being fined if you don't follow all the rules. So you let the professional guy make sure that you're compliant. Excuse me. Another part is liability. So when we charter your boat, the transaction is between the charterer or the renter and us. You are not a party to that transaction. So your liability is definitely reduced. Again, I'm not giving legal advice on that, but typically that's the way the transaction goes. There's a contract between my company and the renter that you are not a party to. You are just our agreement is between us and the boat owner. So you're not a party to that, which definitely gives you a little bit of liability insulation. The third or the last big thing, can I charter my boat myself, comes back to Airbnb. So the big thing now is everybody wants to rent their boat out as a hotel room. It seems to be very easy. You don't need anybody. You just put it on the website and they're going to advertise it for you. They'll even help you with insurance. And it's a really popular thing. I am not a fan. I am not a fan at all. For one thing, the nightly rate that you get is far less than the daily rate. So let's say, you can rent that boat for $250 a night, but I can charter it for you for $1,000 a day. I would rather have the day than 4 nights. To me, let's see. Somebody's asked me a question here. So I think it makes more sense to do the day rentals. I think that when you're doing the Airbnb stuff, it ends up that you get non-boaters. So people are not looking to rent a boat. They're not looking to use a boat recreationally. So their expectations are different. Their expectations are that when you use the head, when you use the restroom, it's just like anywhere else. And you press the flusher and it flushes. When you turn on a light switch, you flip the switch up and it turns on. When you use the water, you can use the water. So all those things, the boats are not hotel rooms. Boats are boats. So unless your boat is totally set up for that exclusively, I think you're running into more trouble. I think the wear and tear on the boat is greater than the return. I'm not a fan. There are companies that do that exclusively. So there's charter companies that specialize in that. I still think that the return on that is not as good as just chartering it on a regular basis, using it as the boat was intended. Okay. So can I still use my boat? So everybody's worried, they bought this boat, they're going to put it in charter, they're going to make all this money, but, is it still my boat? Absolutely. Absolutely. Super important. It is still your boat. Actually, okay, I'm looking there. So I have some questions that I'm going to skip back to. So at what age is a boat not likely is good to put into a charter company? So it depends on the boat a little bit. We try and keep boats like the oldest that I want to see is a 10-year-old boat. I prefer something in the 5 years, and the reason is a little bit more complicated than you would think. So I've seen 15, 20-year-old boats that look showroom. They look brand new, and they're beautifully well maintained, refitted, da 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 da. But the problem with that is all the equipment on that boat is also 10 or 15 years old. So they've made a lot of advancements in marine sanitation devices. They've made advances in the propulsion system. So all of those systems are old on that boat. Wiring is old. So the older the boat, you stress all those systems, and it makes it much more expensive to maintain. And even little things. So, you get a scratch in the gel coat on a boat that's 10, 15 years old or older, it's harder to match that gel coat and make that go away. If it's a relatively new boat, we go to the manufacturer, we get the factory gel coat, and we fix it. So the older boats just make it makes it more expensive to maintain. Is there much of a call for yachts in the 90-foot range in Southern California? Well, it's a funny question because I was just dealing with a guy that actually we went to buy a 100-foot boat. And that would have been the biggest boat in our fleet. He actually had a deal on it, and I had come up with a business plan for that. It's not the norm. There are many, many more boats in the 70 and smaller range than the bigger boats. But I believe that market is growing. I do believe that there's a demand for that. It's a different kind of, it's not a day boating experience, but there is big money coming to town. There's in Newport, all over the LA area and San Diego. They're big dollar people. I was recently in Catalina, and I watched a boat sit on anchor for a week with people coming and going, and it was chartered out of Newport. It was a 106-foot Westport. Beautiful boat. So, yes, there is a market. It's a little bit more of a narrow market, but the dollars are big. So it's definitely there. In terms of owning a boat that size in Southern California, it's also a little bit challenging because, like, if you want to go places, there's fewer places for a 90-foot boat, for a 100-foot boat, than there is a 70. In San Diego, for example, there's 2 anchorages that people love to go to. You can't spend the night in those anchorages if your boat's over 70 feet. So there's definitely downsides to it, but you can also go to Seattle. You can go down to Mexico. So obviously, the bigger the boat, the longer the range. Is it possible to make a net profit from purchasing a boat for charter? Yes, it is. Obviously, depending on the boat, depending on how aggressive you want that boat to be used, and depending on the market. So people buy boats all the time in the British Virgin Islands, even Florida, and the season is longer and the dollar volume is bigger. The problem with that is that your boat really becomes a charter vessel. It is not your boat that you're using. It's more of a timeshare situation. The dollars are huge. Here, we do have boats that do make a profit for a certain period of time, but will that sustain, does that cover the cost of the vessel, the depreciation of the vessel, and what you're going to sell it for? That's a little bit tougher of a call, but we do have people that have a net profit on their boat year to year, and it's not at all unusual. That's typically not what I'm going to promise you. It's not what I'm going to say to you when I'm telling you to buy the boat. I try and give you as conservative an estimate, and I think later on I talk about a pro forma. But yes, it is possible to make money doing it. What are the tax benefits of putting your boat into charter, or what are the tax benefits? So I would defer to Tom exactly on what the tax benefits are. You want to address that? Okay, we're a little bit clunky with Tom's connection. There's a couple. Overall, the tax benefits are: one, the deductibility of the vessel itself. So there's Section 179. There's ways that you can immediately depreciate or take depreciation over time. So you are depreciating the value of the you're writing off that boat against your income, and that obviously is a huge thing. You can also, all of the expenses of your vessel, or most of the expenses of your vessel that you normally would just be paying, are now deductible. So it's a business. So you have business insurance, you have the expense of maintaining that boat, of keeping it in the slip. Those are all now business expenses that will offset the cost of the income that you get, and potentially even offset other income that you have. And then there's ways to avoid, in certain circumstances, sales tax. And there's ways to avoid property tax in California as well. So again, I tell you what is potential. I tell you, who to talk to about it, making that right. But you definitely can get those benefits. What does the person chartering the boat pay for fuel? Fuel essentially is paid by the charter. It depends by the charterer. It's just the way that it's done through the contract. But if in a normal charter situation, the owner is obviously not responsible for the fuel. We try and separate that out as much as possible, because there's huge variability in the fuel. If you're going on a harbor cruise going at 5 knots, 7 knots, 8 knots, you're going to use a lot less fuel than you're going to Catalina and you want to cruise at 12 knots. So the fuel is separate from the charter, should be paid directly by the renter, by the charterer. And in our situation, that is a separate cost. That's not something that we charge. That's not included in the rental. So we don't charge our management fee on that. It's something outside of that. How does the owner of the boat charter company? How does the owner of the boat and the charter company negotiate through maintenance issues that are largely cosmetic? Okay, we'll go to the next slide. I think that we can get through some of that. Is that the right slide there? Okay, so I will get to all that later. I'm going to skip that question for right now, because I do cover that. So, but a big part of that, and a big part of that answer to that, is how do I pick the right charter company? So first and foremost, you want to make sure that you're going into partnership, which you really are, with a company that you feel comfortable with, or with a person that you feel comfortable with. That the representative from that company is somebody you're going to be working with. So make sure you spend your time before you place your boat into that charter service. Do your due diligence. Make sure you've got the right guy. And I think it all starts with their reputation. So ask around, look at their website, go into their facilities, talk to their employees, talk to some of their customers if you can, get references. But reputation is huge. You are now going to be partners with this person, with this company. Make sure that your boat is well represented, that the people that you are dealing with have a good, honest reputation that you can trust. Because at the end of the day, it is a partnership, and there is a lot of trust issues there. So you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with somebody like that. The second part of this is get a pro forma. So you're signing a contract, but it's not a lifetime contract. It's a contract for a fixed period of time. So get a pro forma. See what they predict your expenses are going to be, and see what they predict that your income is going to be, and how often, and the details of the charter for that first year. It's not always 100%, and there's some assumptions that we make, but you want to know what the assumptions are as well. I recently had a guy who bought a brand new boat, and he put it into charter service, and I gave him a year ago, his year anniversary came up, and I gave him a pro forma before we started. And I gave them a high, medium, and low. And we came in on the first year really on the bottom end of my prediction, of my expectation. So he called me, and we had a nice conversation. Well, why are we at the wrong end of this deal? And I explained to him that his use of the boat was much more than we were expecting. The boat was used on peak season, The boat was out of our availability to charter, and he was totally fine with that. And I explained to them up front that a lot of the amount of revenue is based on the restrictions and the amount of use that the owner puts. We're super flexible. I think we're more flexible than any other company that I've ever had anything to do with about how much and when the owner can use the boat. But obviously, the more you use it, the less it's going to get. The less revenue you're going to get. But make sure that you get that prediction. You want to know what we're saying is going to do and what it's going to cost. So at the end of a fixed period of time, whether it's a season, whether it's a year, or whatever you say, that you have a test. How well are we doing? Are we meeting your expectations? So that's super important. Want to get that benchmark up front. Make sure you understand the terms of the contract. So again, our contract is very flexible. It can be canceled by either party with a 60-day notice. We don't cancel people for not a very good reason. We want your boat. We make money by having your boat in the fleet. So that part of it is not really a concern. The part that you should be concerned about is, can you get out of this contract? So you find you just won the lottery and you don't care about having the boat in charter anymore. You just found out you're moving from Southern California to Florida and you want to take the boat. Am I restricted? Do I have to keep the boat there for a year, for 6 months? So what are the terms? Some companies have a buyout clause. So if you want to take it out before the end of your contract, you have to pay them for the potential revenue that they should have gotten. I'm not saying that's wrong, but you just need to know those things. Make sure you understand that and make sure that there's a valid reason why they're doing that and it offsets whatever the downside is to that. Know the terms of the contract. Make sure you go through that. Super important. And then understand the fees and the services that they provide. So what are you going to cost? What is it going to cost me? What am I paying you to manage my vessel? What is it going to cost me to have my boat chartered out? You don't want surprises. You don't want to find out at the end of the year that you get a bill for X, Y, and Z. You want to know upfront all the things that you are expected to pay for, and all the things that you expect them to do, and what is going to offset the revenue. Super important. I saw another question. Is a Sea Ray 650 good for charter? Absolutely. Sea Ray 650 is a beautiful boat. Again, it depends on the market, depends on what you want to do with it, but a Sea Ray is a great boat. There's some advantages to a Sea Ray in that it's an American-made vessel, which takes away some of the restrictions, but that's potentially a fantastic boat. Really, if you can look at what people are buying, you can look at what is popular. So the same people that potentially are going to charter your boat are the same people that would buy a boat. We're really doing the same thing. We're selling it to them for a short period of time. We're allowing them to get the same use out of that vessel that you want when you buy it. So if it's a good boat to own, it's a good boat to charter, with exception of things that are particularly fragile. If you have a super high performance boat that has a tendency to break if misused, if you have gold or crystal silver dishware, there's definitely exceptions. But for the most part, if your boat's suitable to own and it's popular in that market, it's a good boat for a charter. Let's go to the next slide. Here we go. Should I promote my boat myself? So again, I always say you are a partner in this business. You are not paying somebody to manage your boat. You're not paying somebody to charter your boat. You are a partner in a charter boat company. Your charter boat company may have one boat from your perspective, but you're a partner. So should you promote it? Absolutely. You should promote it with a website. You should promote it with flyers. You should use your social media because you want that boat to be successful. You want that boat to stand out. You also want to show that you're in a legitimate business. So it's again, this is not a tax dodge. This is a business that will offer you tax advantages. So if you're in a business, if you're in any business, it's your responsibility to be involved in that and to make sure. Now, you can trust your managers and you can have them do this and that. I say the more involved you are, the better, up to the level that you have the time and the patience and the knowledge to do it. But a website is not a big deal. You have the website. We have most of our boat owners have websites. They have the link to our reservation system on there, but they're promoting it there. That boat it stands out. It also helps with a couple other things. So if we have in our fleet 5 37-foot vessels, all essentially the same. Well, if you're promoting your boat, then your boat is going to go out potentially more than the other 4. Like we have an interest in making sure that they all go out. At the end of the day, I have to be very concerned that your boat is successful, because if it's not going to be there for me to continue to make money. So we have that interest, but you have even more of an interest in your boat, not in our fleet. So make your boat stand out. Make it that boat that people want to go to, or that's the one that they want to use. Another thing that you can do, and I think this is it helps in a lot of different ways, and that is a friends and family rate. So as an owner of a business that provides a lot of fun with all kinds of toys, I'm constantly being asked by people, hey, can I get a boat? Can I get a boat? Can you do this? And what we've done, and what I always recommend boat owners do, is a friends and family rate. So yes, you can do it. Instead of paying retail, you pay this rate. And you can be as aggressive as you want with that. You can give as much, as little as you want. But I think that, one, it shows that you're not giving away something for free, because something for free has no value. And then it also makes people more comfortable to ask you for it, because they're not, taking advantage of you. And it also weeds out the people that would take advantage of you. So friends and family rate, super important. And I think that helps promote the boat. Your friends take it out. They're certainly going to be talking it up and telling other people. Another way to help promote the boat is to do charity events. We have people that donate it for charity auctions, a sunset sail or a bay tour. I think those are always good. It also helps you kind of put your name out there in the community. I do it all the time just because I like it. It makes me feel good to be able to give back. Okay. So insurance and reporting. So these are obviously super important things in terms of insurance. The charter company should help you with secure a good marine commercial liability policy. Typically, our policies are $1 million liability, $5,000 deductible on the hull insurance. We have a company that we work for that we do get you a good fleet rate. Typically, our charter policies are about the same price as a non-commercial policy, but work with the charter guy. They should help you with that. But absolutely, you make sure that you have a real deal charter policy on your boat. Do not rent, charter, use your boat. Otherwise, if you do not have that, if you're chartering your boat and you don't have that insurance, that charter insurance on it, you are taking a huge risk, and they can and will deny a claim if they possibly can. There's there's minimal use stuff. A lot of restrictions in there. You want a broad, standard form charter insurance policy. Maintain records and expenses. Yeah, you want to maintain records. It's a business, so you want to maintain. I suggest you use QuickBooks. Use a business software. Keep records of that. You should get a monthly statement from the charter company that'll give you the income and expenses. But maintain your own books. Maintain your records of when you've gone down, what you've done, so that you can document that you are in this business. And I say the more documentation, the better. You want to keep track of all that so you have a good picture of what's going on. Think of it as a business. I keep saying it is a business, and that's super important to kind of keep it that way. Question, do you provide captains for big boats? Absolutely. So there's a lot of laws. That's where it gets back to the what do I charter the boat myself? So there's laws pertaining to captains that you would not believe how complicated it is. If the boat is a foreign-built boat, it can't be skippered with a charter with a captain if you have more than 6 passengers. So they know that. But yes, you can even specify that the boat has to have, you work with the charter company and say, this is the minimum level of qualification to operate that vessel. So we will say, and we do on every vessel in our fleet, these are the minimum qualifications. If you don't meet those qualifications, if you can't operate the vessel, then we will assist you in getting a captain. So we have a list of 15, 20, 30 guys and girls that we use that are qualified skippers. We facilitate that and make sure that the boat is operated by a captain that is qualified to run it. What kind of business entity is best? LLC. Here's one of those rare occasions where I will say I have no idea. I think a lot of our boats are in an LLC. I mean, that's way beyond my expertise, whether it's an S Corp, a LLC, a C, I don't know. It should be, I believe it should be in a legal entity. Whether it's what form that takes is definitely something that the lawyers will give you a better answer to than we do. And then actually back to that last question, what do you provide captains for larger boats? We actually provide captains for larger boats, for smaller boats. A lot of people don't want to operate their boat. We provide captains for the owners of the boat sometimes. There's a big advantage of having somebody else run the boat, or at least be on board while you're running the boat. So captains are definitely something that we are very involved with. Slip arrangements. So again, where do I want to keep this boat? That's one of the questions that comes into which charter company you want to use. So typically charter companies have arrangements for marinas. You want to make sure that the marina that they are going to be suggesting that you put the boat in is a marina that you want to keep the boat in. And then they should also be able to help you get slips. Right now, Southern California slips are at a premium. They are really hard to get. We maintain a really good relationship with a bunch of marinas and typically can help you get that boat in. And the marinas like doing business with us because they get an override. They get paid more for that slip because of the percentages that they charge. So we can definitely help you. But make sure that the marina that the charter guy wants to have your boat in is a marina that you want to keep the boat in. Let's see what else. The other part of the slip deal is that you want to make sure that you understand the terms of that slip. So we actually have one of our facilities is a facility that we maintain, we own and operate. So at the end of your charter contract, when you're done and you want to sail off into the sunset and you don't want to charter it anymore, you have to leave our facility. So you have to take your boat from our slip and take it somewhere else. A lot of charter companies will rent a block of slips at a marina. But when you're done there, even though you like that marina, you want to stay there, you don't necessarily get to keep that slip. So slips, that's an important question to ask, an important item to understand when you get into this arrangement. Do we have any other questions we haven't responded to? Actually, there is a question we didn't respond to, and that was the question with maintenance and who's responsible for what. So again, that goes back to picking the right charter company. That goes back to the contracts. Typically, the way I feel it should work and the way it works for us is that anything that happens over the course of the charter that the customer caused or the skipper caused or that was a result from the charter should be the responsibility of the charterer and ultimately the responsibility of the charter company. Now this is a contractual thing. You have to understand that. So for us, a customer goes out and they damage the boat. We're responsible for collecting the money and for fixing that. And we definitely live up to that responsibility. You can't be responsible for things that you have no control over. That being said, your boat is also getting used a little bit more or a lot more, depending on the boat. So things will wear out a little bit quicker. You know, your carpet is not going to stay as pristine as if you used it once a month, if you use it 5 times a month. So there's things that will wear out that accelerates is accelerated by use of the boat. So you have to understand that those things are going to be the owner's responsibility. But it's a balance. Most importantly, understand the terms of the contract. We feel that if something is damaged, customer comes in hot, scrapes the side of the boat, those are things that we're responsible for. We collect from the customer, but most importantly to you, we are responsible for affecting the repairs on that. So it's not like, oh, we scratched the gel coat, here's a check. Oh, we lost a fender, here's a check. We will go buy that fender. We will hire that guy at our expense and our time and trouble, so that that's part of the service that we provide in a charter arrangement. And I think that that's important. Another reason why you want to use a charter company rather than kind of doing it on your own. So let me I will do a little bit of a recap here. So kind of in conclusion, identify your priorities. So identify what boat you want, how much you want to make with this boat, what it is that's most important. If you're mostly looking for a boat to bring in the most revenue, there's different, you might want to stick to a certain style boat, a certain type of boat. If your priorities are to own a boat that does this and that, just make sure that you have that balance definitely in control. Chartering your boat will offset the cost of ownership. I think in the Southern California market, it is unusual to go into this business and think that this is going to be a hugely profitable business. This is a profitable business in that there's a lot of advantages, but there's a limit to how much that this can do in this market. We have a fairly short season. So understand, get that pro forma, understand what your income and revenue projections are, and make sure you're comfortable with that. Most importantly, a good charter company will make your boat ownership easier. So the idea is not to have a hassle. The idea is to make it more fun to own that boat. It's more fun because it should cost you less. It's more fun because somebody else is going to take care of the little things that are a pain to do when you own that boat. So make sure that when you need assistance with the who, what, when, where of owning the boat, that guy is going to be your guy. Somebody with a great deal of expertise that will make that boat ownership more fun and give you more enjoyment of owning the boat. Maintain an active role in your business. Again, I keep saying that. I think it's super important. It's a business. You need to be involved in it. You need to make sure that you're an active participant, so that you're recognized, that you get taken care of, and that you can be successful in the chartering of your vessel. I think it's a great idea. I think that putting your boat into charter is a great idea. We have tons and tons of people that we have done business with over the years, and 99% of them are happy boat owners. It should be a hassle-free experience. It's not without any hassle at all. I mean, one of my favorite expressions is, until they start bringing me money in wheelbarrows and dropping it off at the front door, there is a bit of a pain in doing business. So yes, there is some downside to it, but I think that the upsides are great. I think even just the fact that you have a partner in this deal, in owning that boat, makes it worthwhile. It gives you that expertise. You're going to the shipyard for the first time, and you've never been involved with a haul out. They're speaking a different language. Do you know whether you want 3 coats of bottom paint and 4 on the waterline, or do you want 2 coats and 3 on the waterline? Like, you will learn that, but you don't want to learn that by spending too much money or by doing an inadequate job. So that's where there's so many things that you can get by being involved in that charter company, that I think it makes a tremendous amount of sense. The last thing in conclusion is consult with professionals. Make sure you pick a good broker. Make sure you pick a good, reputable broker. Make sure you pick a good professional tax and legal guy, and make sure you pick the right charter company. With those combination of things, buying this boat, owning this boat will be a much more pleasurable and fulfilling experience. Do profit percentages vary from boat to boat? Profit percentages, absolutely, they vary from boat to boat. The revenue, like in our case, the revenue on there's sweet spots in the fleet. If you have a 40-foot sailboat, we're going to do a tremendous amount of gross revenue on that. Gross revenue in that case results is definitely commensurate to what you make on that. So yeah, I mean, it definitely varies from boat to boat. Some boats are just more expensive to own and operate. So when you're chartering it, you might get a little bit more on the revenue side, but it's more expensive. So the profits are lower. Some boats are just more expensive to buy. So you can buy a 20-foot ski boat. You can buy a Bayliner, or you can buy a Cobalt in that range. It's just, the Cobalt is going to cost you 6 times as much money to buy than the Bayliner. That boat, your return on that investment will be lower because the Cobalt, while it's a beautiful boat, it's like the Rolls Royce. The fit and finish is amazing. The revenue that you're going to get from that is not commensurate to the increased expense. So yes, there's a difference. There's definitely, those are kind of things that a broker will help you with, and a good charter guy will help you with, to give you those balances of where you can maximize your revenue and your return on investment. I could also read that question a little bit differently to the percentages. Typically, our charges are the same for all the boats in our fleet. We don't differentiate. The amount of work that we do and what we do and what our expenses are about the same for little boats and big boats and sailboats and power boats. So it's about the same. Okay, very good. And I'll say I'm always available for consultation. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm passionate about what I do. I love the boating business, and I'm happy to help you avoid mistakes and go the right direction. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, Tom. Appreciate it.